Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports. Today is January 30th, 2025, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
What's going on, everybody? This is Ben Dickerson. I am your co-host. I have one who would have thunk it. It's actually when I heard it on the show. First Things First, Nick Wright brought it up, and he brought it up in the context that the Buffalo Bills should never, ever beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is why. In the 2017 draft, the Buffalo Bills had the 10th pick in the first round. With their starting quarterback coming into that season being Tyrod Taylor, they traded the number 2 pick to the Kansas City Chiefs, who used it on Patrick Mahomes. For doing that, which is akin to the Boston Red Sox trading Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees, they should never, ever beat the Chiefs in the postseason and may never win a Super Bowl until this hex wears off. Now, just because I found that a little interesting, I decided to dig a little bit further, because you may say, well, if they traded that pick, a first-round pick, number 10 overall, to the Chiefs, and they ended up with Patrick Mahomes, was it worth it? What did the Chiefs give back to them? The Chiefs gave them back a later first-round pick that same year, a second-round pick that same year in 2017, and a first-round pick in 2018. So they got 2 first-round picks and 1 second over the course of 2 seasons. That's a pretty good haul for number 2 pick overall. What did they turn those picks into? 3 players that are no longer on their team. Cornerback Tre'Davious White, who played a couple of years, went to the Rams, and then got traded to the Ravens. Wide receiver Zay Jones, who has now played for the Raiders and the Jags, and I believe is currently on the Cardinals, a fair to Midland wide receiver. And linebacker Tremaine Edmonds, who's had a pretty good career so far, and I believe now is playing linebacker for the Chicago Bears. So that turned out to be one great big lopsided trade.
Yeah. There's been a few of those type of things.
Been plenty of them, but this one.
Sowing the seeds of your own destruction, eh?
Exactly.
You know,
at least your postseason destruction.
Well, I do want to say, wow, first of all, that's an interesting stat. You know, watching Breakfast Bowl, Mark Schlereth, they were talking about the fact that Saquon's birthday is on Super Bowl Sunday.
Wow.
And Mark Schlereth is the only person to win a Super Bowl on his birthday.
Okay.
Which was he was 32 years old, and it was Super Bowl 32.
Was that with Denver or was that with Washington?
I think it was Denver.
That was Denver. Yeah, he would have been. Yeah. He played with Washington early in his career.
Right. So
he's one of the Hawks.
He's like the only one. He's it. And this was even funnier, though. They showed video of him on a play where apparently he didn't block anybody. And they said that he stank on that play, and that's why they call him Stink.
That's not why they call him Stink.
No. Do you know why?
Yes, I know why.
Why?
Because he used to pee on himself during games.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Well, that's an interesting.
He said I sweated a lot. I was wet anyway, and I didn't want to bother to go, so I just let it out.
Are you serious? I never heard that. That is news. That is news to the kid. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, hey, go Google it. Use AI. You can confirm. I didn't know that. That's something I didn't know. But that's what they said on the show anyway. So yeah,
Right.
this is another version that just popped up. It's more palatable, I'm sure, than the one that you had.
Yeah,
You're
that's
gonna put it on the morning show. But these guys are all guys, so I wouldn't be surprised if they felt more comfortable saying something like that. So um, wow, that's crazy. I do want to acknowledge, sadly, we had a tragedy in DC with a midair collision. 60 some people died. So we just want to send out condolences to all involved. That's good. And let me just mention, Betty, because me and you are old guys, right? So we were
right.
around when the Rolling Stones was kicking it hard.
Right.
Right? Not that they're not still. I mean, they do a pretty good job of kicking it, a little more than I would be doing at their age.
Yeah, they're still out there.
They're still out there. But do you remember Mary Ann Faithful? She was
No.
yeah. She was Nick's girlfriend at one point
Okay.
and was credited with writing some of the lyrics, some of the songs. Yeah,
Really?
yeah, she was heavily involved um, with the Stones, and she had some small success on her own, but lived a really hard life, man. I mean, and she just recently passed. She passed today, as a fact,
Oh, wow.
78 years old, very and faithful. So,
Well, the way they used to get in it, it's a wonder she made it that long.
no,
Because bro, they used to get it in back then.
what did she see? They said she was quoted as saying something like, if God didn't want us to have LSD, he wouldn't have invented it, or he would have something crazy like
That sounds like something a stoner would say.
yeah, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So here we are, Benny. What we're going to do is going to take a look at the rankings. Um, as you can see, there's probably not going to be much to the rankings. And then we're going to look at the Bias Plus report for Super Bowl Sunday. I mean, let's face it, man. This game is amazing. Last week, when we talked about who we thought we would want to win, and we were talking about Jaden Daniels and Saquon, and I was like, I'd like to see both of them, But you and you've got connections to Saquon going back to Penn State, and we became fans of Saquon coming out of Penn State. I told the story about my wife reading a Sports Illustrated. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. This was before he got drafted. And then after getting drafted, we nicknamed him the Gift because we felt that there was a gift to Eli Manning because they could have drafted a quarterback. And they said, "Nah, we'll keep Eli another year or so." And they went and got Saquon. So we called it a gift. It was a gift to Eli at this point. Now people are calling it a gift from the Giants to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Which is not true.
Yeah, I know you. Well, let me put it this way. Technically, you could say that, but and just him coming to the Eagles, whether he came from your team, the Giants, or any team, it was like a gift. He's been like such a benefit, that it was like a gift that came to them. So
He gifted himself to the Eagles. He could have gifted himself to another team because he was a free agent. Nobody gave him to them.
Well,
he was a free agent.
He gifted himself, which made it an even better gift then, because he made the decision, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so there you go.
What I love about it is, number one, even though he's on the Eagles, I'm still a big Saquon Barkley fan. I love the fact that he's having such a great season, even over and above the fact that he's helped them get as far as they've gotten and could possibly help them win the Super Bowl. Because I remember being a Giants fan back when they took him in the first round and they got crushed for it.
Oh, yeah.
No running back is good enough to get picked in the first round, they said. The Giants are crazy. They should have never taken him. Now, if you want to get technical about it, they probably could have drafted differently and perhaps wouldn't be going through what they're going through now. However, he's proving now his real worth. Okay. Who gets better at the end of their career at the running back position than they are at the beginning? Hardly anybody.
Well, I understand that he's better now than he was. I don't know if I would quite define it as the end of his career yet.
Well, no, I don't mean, I mean the latter part of his career as opposed to the beginning part of his career.
Yes, yes. I mean, he got bigger, stronger, faster, and he's just,
Even after a major knee surgery.
even after that, yeah. So, but yeah, he's a phenomenon, no doubt about it, man. So let's go ahead and move into the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, where we look at where the teams ended in the categories that we track most closely. Okay, then here we go. The Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports. Now, the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings ranks based on what you've done to date. The date we have here, January 28th. Today is the 30th, but there was no football beyond the 28th. So that's the last update for any activity. So let's take a look at it, Benny. And we're not going to have to go down into the bottom half too much because there really is nobody down there. What we're looking at here are average net points, average points for, average points against, and average turnover differential. And as we're looking at these, we always start first with those who are ranked in first place. And for those still in the running, and that would be Philadelphia and Kansas City, first place is Philadelphia with an average points against of 17.9. So they're the team still in it. As we go beyond that, over to the left, to average net points, ANP, we see Philadelphia coming in second place at plus 10.5. Now, as we go across, we see Philadelphia also in second place, an average turnover differential at plus 1.1. Again, net points is the difference between points for and points against. And average, when you average something, it can go positive or negative, as can the average over here on net points. So we have Philly in second place. And as we look for the Kansas City Chiefs, they are down here in 11th place at plus 3.7. Now, we'll talk about why it got even wider, why Philadelphia is so high. On scoring, we see Philadelphia coming in sixth at 28.4 points per game. Kansas City coming in 12th at 23.2 points per game. Defensively, Kansas City is bucking it up a little bit, coming in fourth at 19.4 points per game. And on average turnover differential, Kansas City is down there hanging out with the likes of Denver, the Rams, but they are 11th at plus 0.3 points per game. So that's pretty much where everybody stands relative to the net points, their scoring, their defensive scoring, and their turnover differential. So, any comments, Benjamin?
No, I was pretty sure that Philadelphia would hold serve where they were in average points against. I'm a little tiny bit surprised that they didn't jump ahead in average points for after the offensive display that they put on this past weekend against the Commanders. But they're right where they need to be in average net points at second place, even though they've played another game over beyond what Detroit has played, just again showing how strong Detroit was, especially offensively. And turnovers, again, good job by the Eagles in takeaways and not giving the ball away, which they haven't done hardly at all, if at all, after their bye week, which I think was like week 5 or something over the regular season. They did give it away a couple times early on in the first few games, but since their bye week, they've been super protective of the ball. Hurts has been extremely careful with the ball, running with it and passing it. So that has helped them tremendously in staying in games when they were threatened, which wasn't very often, but it did happen. But because they did not give the ball away and because their defense did take it away, they're sitting pretty there in average turnover differential. Kansas City looks pretty average as far as the better teams were concerned. In fact, there were several postseason teams that were better than them in every category. The only difference is they didn't win. So that's big. I mean, the numbers are what they are, okay, but you still got to win the games to stay alive, and that's what the Chiefs seem to do a little bit better than a bunch of other teams. Is they win at the end of the game, they are the victors. So that's where we stand there.
Here we go. Well, that wraps up the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. Let's move on to the Bias Plus Report. The Bias Plus Report takes into account the average net points and the average turnover differential, puts them into a super secret formula, and out pops the Bias Plus Report. So it will provide a score which will favor one team or the other. Let's take a look here and see what that's going to be like as we skip over the bottom half of the rankings. These are all the teams. This is why we tell people go to sterlingnppr.com, see where your team ended up the season for the most part. So we have the Super Bowl. Benny, I cannot forget now the letters for this Super Bowl. Ever since I seen Gronk in the last commercial where he says, Super Bowl licks.
Only he could get away with that.
Oh my goodness, he's hilarious. But it helps me remember the letters now. I can't forget it. LIX, Super Bowl licks.
God, this guy.
He is my favorite stooge right now, I tell you. Yes. All right, Benny, here we go. This is it. The net point. I can't even say it right. The Bias Plus Report. Chiefs at Eagles, the Bias Plus score of 10 favors the Eagles. And let me say, Benny.
Yes.
You said, you mentioned that the Eagles played, I think, one more game than the Chiefs did. So
No. Oh, okay. Yeah. Because the Chiefs had the first round bye.
Right. So I went back and just looked at the last two games and did all the calculations manually.
Okay.
It got worse. It was like 18, a bias plus of 18 and a half favoring the Eagles.
Wow.
But go ahead and tell us, because I think, I have a thought as to, why that happened and everything. But you go ahead and run your piece, because you'll explain for the most part.
Yeah, I was going to try to make this short and sweet. I'm like, we only got two teams left. People are really trying to figure out, we live here in Philadelphia, so obviously we hear from Philadelphia fans all the time. And Philadelphia, being as good as they've been this season and playing as well as they've played coming down the stretch, the only question that a lot of Eagles fans have is, how can we not win? And how will the Chiefs beat us if they do? And I'm hearing all this jibber jabber about the refs and all that. I don't really want to hear all that crap. But the bottom line is, I wanted to do the same thing I normally do and talk about what each team did to get to the point where they are now in the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs played the Buffalo Bills last week. And as I'm looking at the scores, and I'm looking at some of the play-by-play and the scoring, and I'm looking at the lead changes, and I'm like, this game was really, really close. It was so close. And every time I looked at certain statistics, I'd look for something else. I'm like, it's almost impossible for that to be that close. Right. What about this? What about this? What about this? It was crazy. So they beat the Buffalo Bills That was the AFC Championship game. The score was 32-29. The lead changed 5 times. Both teams battled and ended with very, very similar statistics. Check this out. Josh Allen threw for 237 yards and 2 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes threw for 245 yards and 1 touchdown. The Bills rushed for a total of 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Chiefs rushed for 135 yards and 3 touchdowns. A Mahomes fumble was the only turnover of the game. And the time of possession was almost identical. Buffalo had the ball for 30 minutes and 32 seconds. Kansas City had the ball for 29 minutes and 28 seconds. They don't get much more even than that. Defensively, both teams recorded 2 sacks. Both teams recorded 3 tackles for loss. Buffalo hit Mahomes 8 times. Kansas City hit Josh Allen 7 times. This is crazy. So what was the difference in the game? Now, this is my opinion, of course. Some of it is based on conjecture and some of it is based on numbers. Okay, why not, right? But in my opinion, there were actually 2 things that cost Buffalo the game. Number one thing was the Chiefs were more efficient on offense. They converted 5 out of 9 third down attempts. Okay? So they got to third down 9 times in the game. They converted 5 of them. And they were 1 of 1 on the 4th down. So they went for it on 4th down 1 time, they made it. Buffalo, on the other hand, had 14 third down attempts. That's a lot. They converted 5, same as the Chiefs, but it's 5 out of 14 as opposed to 5 out of 9. They went for it on 4th down 6 times, converted 4. So kudos for converting 4 of 6 4th down attempts. But you see what I mean about efficiency. Chiefs only had to go for it on 4th down or chose to go for it on 4th down 1 time. They made that 1 time. 5 out of 9 on 3rd as opposed to 5 out of 14 on 3rd downs for Buffalo.
Yeah.
Now, here's the number 2 reason. And let me make sure I got all my ducks in a row here. Score was tied at 29 deep into the game, 4th quarter. The Chiefs marched 51 yards in 8 plays and kicked a field goal to take a 3-point lead. The Bills got the ball back with 3 minutes and 33 seconds left in the game. On 1st down, backup running back Ty Johnson ran the ball and was tackled for a 1-yard loss. On 2nd down, Josh Allen ran the ball. He gained 13 yards. Now, after that, they never ran the ball again. They had all passes, and they ended up getting stopped on downs. The Chiefs got the ball back and ran out the clock. Starting running back James Cook, who ran for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns on only 13 carries, averaging 6.5 yards per carry over the course of the game, never touched the ball during what could have been a game-tying or game-winning drive. That's why they lost the game.
Okay.
Chiefs never proved that they could consistently stop James Cook. The Bills stopped him by not giving him the ball.
I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna add this, or maybe something.
Okay.
Hopefully, I didn't miss it if you said this. So if I did, please excuse me. But your boy Spags, seemed to know Josh Allen's tendencies.
Yeah.
At a high level. So on their tush push, he knew which side Josh was going to slide to, and he prepared. And that's one of the reasons why they had such a low success rate on their turnover downs, 3rd and 4th downs.
But again, I blame that on Buffalo.
Well, you can blame it on Buffalo, but that they got out coached if that's the situation. Or maybe just come snap, Josh Allen just didn't read it well, which is what I thought happened on the play that everybody says, oh, he should have caught that ball. Where Josh Allen rolled right and tossed up a prayer that came down and the tight end almost caught it. It hit his arms, but it basically was a prayer. He just tossed that thing up there, man. The thing that got me, however, is that the left side of the field was a wide oasis of first downs and scoring. It was green grass. He had a running back, literally ran to that side and turned and looked, and he never even looked that way. It was amazing. He never, I'm like, you got to at least have peripheral vision to see that there's nothing over there, and he rolls right into the blitz, which is why he had to go with the panic, toss the thing up. So I'm thinking Spags knows his tendencies, apparently, and I've seen him roll right, get to the sideline and throw that miracle pass into the end zone. We saw him do that this year. And apparently that's enough of a tendency that if I'm looking at him in a pressure situation, I know that he's going to go with his tendency. So here comes the blitz on that side, and he ran right into it. So I give Spags some credit. Your boy Spags, you're always talking about how great he is, but I give him some credit for that. So that's all I would really kind of add to what you just said.
I would agree that he deserves credit for doing what he did because he's able to do that to just about everybody to a different degree or maybe in a little bit of a different scheme. But he schemed up for them properly. But I still blame Buffalo because you've seen him do that roll right, miraculous throw. I've seen him do the roll right, miraculous throw. Every commentator's seen it. So you think Spags hasn't seen it? Of course he's seen it. So Buffalo doesn't think he knows that, and they go ahead and do it anyway. Every time they push, every time. Because the first time they did it, I'm thinking to myself, I even said to you, we watched the game together. I said, he always goes through that little crack between the center and the left guard. I've seen him do it before. So if I've seen him do it before, and the guy that's getting paid to be the DC of the Kansas City Chiefs, who watches 10 zillion hours of tape on him, knows it, why would you keep doing it?
Well, I think they were under the impression that they were like the Eagles and they can't be stopped.
But they're not the Eagles.
Well, I know that. I said they think that
you can't think that doesn't. Well, that's not even.
You said why would they do it? I'm telling you why I think they would do it because they've had enough success that they think, okay, we can keep going back to it. That's what I think they're thinking.
You do that when you make it. When they didn't, the first time they didn't make it, they should have seen how prepared the Chiefs were for it and known this ain't gonna work today.
Well, I understand, you're defending it's the coach's, fault theorem.
It is the coach's fault.
I mean, that's your theory, it's a theory.
No, it's not a theory.
Let me say this.
That's how football is coached.
For example, on that play where Josh rolled right, okay, the play looked to me as if it was supposed to go left. If Josh didn't do what the play was supposed to do, I'm not blaming the coaches because the play, had he looked left, would have been a massive success. So for whatever reason, he rolled right again.
And he went where? What did you say before? Right into the blitz.
Exactly.
We sat there and listened to, who was the commentator? Was it Tom Brady? Who did the game? Romo. Romo said, Spags shows blitz here and blitzes from over here. And that's exactly what he did. He showed blitz on Josh's left, so Josh called himself rolling away from the blitz and rolled into it. So if Tony Romo knows it, how come the Buffalo Bills don't know?
I'm not saying the Buffalo Bills don't, but they don't know what is going to happen until the ball is snapped. All they can do is say, "Hey, Spags, this is what Spags does," and he's so good at it that okay, it works in the best of situations. let's jump over to the Eagles here because they had a game also against one Jaden Magic Daniels and company. Tell us what you think about happened there.
Well, after the Commanders took the opening drive, 54 yards, and finished with a field goal, they were feeling pretty good. Then they kicked off. The Eagles took the ball on the first play from scrimmage. Saquon Barkley went 60 yards for a touchdown. That's when they knew they were in trouble. Right off the bat. First play from scrimmage. The closest Washington ever got after that was 14-12 after Daniels to McLaurin touchdown pass in the second quarter. After that, that game basically was over. I'll just give you some numbers here. Washington turned the ball over 4 times. You cannot win like that. I don't care how much magic you got. 1 interception, 3 lost fumbles. Daniels ran for 48 yards. Should have ran more if you ask me. 29-48, super inefficient. 255 yards looked impressive, but he only had 1 touchdown. And again, like I said, 29 out of 48, extremely inefficient. On the other side of the ball, they were super efficient, and I mean, they were throwing haymakers. Hurts, 246 yards through the air, 1 touchdown. 10 rushes, which is exactly what he needed. Only 16 yards, but 3 touchdowns. What does that tell you? Tush, push, tush, push, tush, push. Saquon, 15 carries, 118 yards. Only 15 carries? He could have probably had more, but guess what? 3 touchdowns. This is ridiculous. They blew them out. 55-23. It really wasn't much of a game once the second half got started. Or actually, before halftime, it was pretty much looking like it was going to be a tough day for the Commanders. The defense looked great. They only got 3 sacks, and they only had 4 tackles for loss. 4 tackles for loss is nothing to sneeze at. But the Commanders really didn't attempt to get their ground game going, as far as I'm concerned. Their running back Robinson, I don't know how many carries he had, but it wasn't many. He's lucky if he broke double digits. Eagles defense was tremendous, especially the secondary. 8 passes defensed. They looked primed and ready for that game, and they looked primed and ready for the Super Bowl. Luckily for them, their only misfortune or the only weakness it looks like they may have is on the offensive line. The starting center was injured. The starting guard moved over. Then he got injured, but I don't think it was very serious. And the starting center actually suited up for an emergency, which happened, and he came in, he played the whole second half. So he wasn't hurt that bad. If Dickerson hadn't hurt his knee, then the starting center probably wouldn't have had to go in at all. Now they got 2 weeks to rest up and get themselves together. So the offensive line should be intact. They look strong.
Well, yeah. On that same thing, this is how I'm describing it. To me, it's looked like in a boxing ring where you have a heavyweight and a light heavyweight. And the light heavyweight can put up a little bit of a fight, but that extra weight is why they keep them separate. It just didn't look like they had the weight. And what was really, to me, hilarious once I looked at it, when Saquon ran that first touchdown, I had a picture of it, I couldn't find it. I'll put it up on our Facebook page if I can find it. Once he took the pitch and turned it up, and as he passed the line of scrimmage and kind of right before he did the little spin move and broke out, if you look back at the line of scrimmage, you will see somewhere between 4 to 6 Washington Redskin linemen on the ground. I mean, flattened. The pursuit was slowed down, but there was so many bodies that they had to run around. And to me, that's hilarious. That shows you, okay, this is going to be a long day when your entire defensive line just got pancaked and Saquon.
When your offensive line is as good as the Eagles' offensive line is, and they're stellar at both run blocking and pass blocking, But everybody know if anybody knows anything about offensive linemen or has talked to offensive linemen, they know that they relish run blocking. If they never had to back up and pass block a whole game, they would be more than happy. They annihilated them guys up front. It was no contest. It was no contest. So when you're opening up holes and pancaking people, it's no wonder Saquon has clear, smooth sailing till he gets to the secondary. And at that point, the knees are pumping, elbows are flying. You know, these cats are arm tackling. He's shrugging them off like it's nothing because they're sticking their arms out and diving at his feet. You're at his mercy at that point.
Oh
It's
my
crazy.
God. Yeah.
But if there's an offensive line that's close to being as good as the Eagles' offensive line, it would be number one would be Detroit Lions had tremendous offensive line, but number two would be the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, that brings us to the actual matchup itself, Benny. As you can see, the net points favor the bias plus favors the Eagles, which is in direct opposition. Well, I'll say Vegas has the Chiefs favored by 1.5 points.
Right.
And like I said, when I went back and I just looked at the net points and the turnover differential for the last 2 weeks, it got worse. But then as I thought about it, and as you explained earlier, the Chiefs played a much more competitive game than what the Eagles had to play. Like I said, I'm looking at the Washington members, like they were kind of light heavyweights. They weren't really ready to step up to that weight range yet. And then the turnover differential massively in the Eagles' favor, where the Chiefs were -1, and I think the Eagles were like +4, something like that in that game.
Right.
Well coached at coming in and punching that ball out. I mean, they were having a punch out, fest, like don't trip and then try to get up and run, because while you're trying to get up, they're just coming in and punching that ball.
And they're going right for the ball.
Absolutely, absolutely. So here you got the guy who's been winning by small margins all year, wound up with the best record winning by small margins against a team that kind of was winning by small margin until recently. Then now they're whooping up on people a little bit, and have no compunction about running the tush push like 6 times in a row. So
again, you have a superior offensive line over the Bills. Superior.
Well, now the question is, do you have a superior offensive line over the Chiefs?
Well, when I say over the Bills, I meant their offensive line is better than the Bills' offensive line.
Okay.
I wasn't comparing to offensive defense, but as far as I'm concerned, and didn't they beat the Chiefs in the regular season?
Who? The Eagles?
Yes. I believe that the Eagles are the only team, and only a few teams really try to run the tush push. Some of them do it different ways, but they've mastered it. They've actually mastered it. I heard a couple commentators say they were a little bit surprised that once Kelce retired, that they would be able to continue to have the kind of success with it that they have. But let's remember that center Juergens, he's been under Kelce's wing the entire time he's been there. Kelce's been grooming him personally to be ready for this when he left. So, and everybody else has been there. And Mekhi Becton, the right guard for the Eagles, you see the size of that dude? He's the biggest guy on the line, and he's a guard. He's been playing tackle his whole career. They made him a guard. That's almost unfair. Just in mass alone.
The Chiefs lost to the Broncos and the Bills.
Broncos and Bills. Okay, so maybe the Eagles did play. I can't remember who the Eagles played in the AFC. But anyway, yeah, I have all the faith in the world in the Eagles tush push. I'm not I give up. Y'all got that. That play's not stoppable. If it gets stopped, it's because that guy that dove over and kept getting penalized. Maybe he dives over and doesn't go off sides, and he stopped
That's
it.
right, eh?
But it would have to be perfect timing. Everything would have to be perfect on the defensive side. See, here's the problem. Usually you tell your D lineman, you got to get lower than that. That works if he's running through the line, but he's not. He's kind of body surfing on the offensive line. So if you go under them, they're digging on top of you, and he's riding them. If they get under you, once you lose your feet and you're down, he just leg drives right over top of you. The guy squats 600 pounds. Jalen Hurts. So what are you going to do?
Well, that's the question. And if Spags comes up with an answer for that, he'll be a super certified mad genius.
That's true. I don't think he will, but if the Chiefs are going to win this game, he's going to have to come up with something that keeps them out of position to be able to do it, especially on the 1 yard line. Now, if it's a first down in the middle of the field, oh well, okay? But if they get the ball within the 3, oh, they're going to tush push it. They're going to do it. They got to do it.
That's
It's
what
only,
they do.
it's only natural. That's what they do.
That's what they do.
There's another question. Now, I'll pose this question to you because this came up on Talk Radio this morning. Do you favor talent or pedigree? Eagles got the talent.
Assuming what you're saying is, what you're saying here is assuming the Eagles have the better talent.
Yes.
And the Chiefs have the better pedigree.
Yes.
Okay. So you're asking me, do I favor talent or pedigree?
Yes.
I don't know if that's really I don't like that question, because one has more to do with the coaching and the other has more to do with the players. I mean, the pedigree you're talking about is the coaching, right? You're talking about You're talking about a pedigree.
The pedigree I'm talking about is the winning. The winning.
The winning pedigree.
Chiefs win. They win. They win when they look good. They win when they look bad. They win when they turn the ball over. They win.
Well, that's true, but the Eagles win too. I mean, the Eagles lost one more game than they did, or something like
this season. But the Chiefs has been doing it for 3 years now.
Okay.
Through all their
butts in the Super Bowl, what, 2 years ago?
2 years ago, and they against the Chiefs.
They were in the NFC Championship since then, right?
Not last year.
Wasn't it my Niners they beat in the NFC Championship since then? Since they won the Super Bowl?
No, the Chiefs beat the Niners in the Super Bowl last year.
I'm talking about the NFC Championship.
That was 2 years ago.
The Eagles were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, right?
Yes. In order to get there, they had to beat the Niners in the championship, in the NFC Championship.
Were not the Eagles not in the NFC Championship after that Super Bowl appearance?
Who was the NFC winner last year?
The Eagles.
The Eagles weren't in the Super Bowl last year.
They weren't in the Super Bowl last year. Who was it?
So they couldn't have been the NFC champion.
But they were in it. That's
right. That's what I'm saying. Who beat them?
They were in it. I'm not sure.
I can't remember who the heck the
Chiefs
beat.
Was it my Niners?
It was the Niners.
It was the Niners.
So the Eagles knocked the Niners out, won the NFC, went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Chiefs. Then they went back to the NFC Championship, lost to the Niners. Then they're back in the NFC Championship again this year, win it, and back to the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, the Chiefs go 3 times in a row, no interruption. Win, and possibly win a third in a row. Regardless of who gets hurt, regardless who crashes up their car, regardless of who gets traded, regardless of who gets injured.
Well, it sounds like you're pretty much a pedigree guy.
It's nothing to sneeze at.
You
It
know,
means something.
I mean,
Also,
I do understand what you're saying relative to, I mean, you know, it kind of reminds me when we were playing of the league versus the Cougars, and couldn't nobody beat those guys. They had a
right.
quarterback.
But they had talent and pedigree.
Okay,
And the Chiefs have talent and pedigree. But
okay,
if you put their roster next to the Eagles roster, it's pretty clear that the Eagles have the overall most talented team. But it's not to say that the Chiefs are a bunch of old farts that just know how to win. They got talent too.
oh yeah, they got talent, and we talked about
So,
that. We talked about, you know,
right.
I said I like their receiving core. People that talk about their receiving core stuff. I'm a Kareem Hunt fan. You know what I mean? So I think that he makes a difference. Um, and so okay, well, I don't know. Talent versus the numbers. As far as I'm concerned, right now, say Eagles, but I do understand what you're saying. And apparently, Vegas is maybe giving pedigree a little more weight because London,
Exactly.
I mean, and really win loss, they're better than the Eagles, but at no other place are they better than the Eagles in terms of scoring or anything like that. The Eagles have done a better job uh,
That's right.
than
That's why I was a little bit surprised. I thought Vegas was going to favor the Eagles by a point or two. So when it came out that the Chiefs were favored by, what is it, two and a
one
half?
and a half, 1.5.
One and a half. I was a little bit surprised, but then when I heard one and a half, I was like, all right, I can live with that. But yeah, all the numbers point to the Eagles.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Clearly point to the Eagles.
All right, Benny, who do you point to?
I don't know.
Wait.
That's why I'm stalling.
Oh my goodness.
So this is how I look at it. I've been picking these games all season long. I'm not going to pick this game. But what I will say is if the Eagles can jump out somewhere, don't have to be early, but somewhere during the course of the game, they can jump out to a touchdown or better lead and hold on to it going into the fourth quarter, I believe they will win. If this game is close, like tied or a field goal or something weird like a 4 or 5 point lead, the Chiefs are going to beat them. That's the way I see it.
Okay, well, I understand. That's what most people think about the Chiefs. If you don't put them somewhat away, and I'm hearing more like a 2 touchdown lead late in the
Well,
game.
that would be like a sure thing. Yeah, that would actually snuff them out.
Well, I don't know. They got the fastest guy in the league. You never know what's going to happen with that guy. So the numbers again, bias plus score favors the Eagles. Vegas favors the Chiefs. Ben, his mind is going. You don't know who he
I'm
wants to
not.
favor.
I'm not going to pick a definitive winner. If the Eagles can put up some numbers and hold the Chiefs off, because if it becomes a scoring battle, I believe the Eagles will win the game. If it's a back and forth, they should take them out. But if they turn the ball over, if they have any mishaps, or if Spags can actually, which I don't think is going to happen, can actually figure out a way to slow Saquon down, like significantly slow him down, and keep this thing close, then yeah, the Chiefs are going to take them out.
So you got Spags versus Kellen Moore, right?
Kellen Moore, who's looking for a head coaching job, and Spags, who could care less.
Not just looking for a head coaching job, right there in New Orleans, where he's going to be at.
Probably do an in-person interview.
You know what I mean? And then you have Vic Fangio versus Andy Reid.
Andy Reid.
Woo, man.
Well, now I'll say this about that matchup. Andy's got his hands full. Not just because Vic Fangio is this great defensive coordinator. That defense is tight. Them boys are tight, man. And they're getting big contributions from people who I wouldn't have counted on.
You mean like Mitchell?
No, I was counting on him. I knew Mitchell was going to be good right off the bat. I tagged him as being a good player in the draft.
Okay. All right.
So that was an excellent pickup. Darius Slay, who I thought was on his last leg, has found the fountain of youth. Cooper DeJean, who I thought would be better equipped to be a safety than a corner, they made him the slot corner. Perfect move.
Mm.
Perfect move. He doesn't get taken deep a lot. You know what I mean? He's got quick feet, good speed, and he can hit.
Well, you said two words that I think are keys. One you just said, who out hits who. It gets to the point where both teams are so evenly matched that's really the only difference, and turnovers. Who can?
Yeah.
I mean, that first Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts fumbled the ball, and for some people, that was pretty much the difference in the game, because he played a great game. Other than that,
yes,
so, and both both teams had history, had some experience at this level in the Super Bowl, so they're kind of prepared.
Yes,
Nonsense. Tom Brady said he was talking about. He said the Super Bowl is a 4-hour game. I never really looked at it like that because most football games are 3 hours.
3.5 hours.
Yeah. He said, so the young guys have to know, especially in the beginning when they're out there warming up and everything, don't burn yourself out. It's going to be a long afternoon. Because it's like, he said, it's like the first half, game, and then there's the second half, game. You know,
right.
So looking at it that way, it's going to be very interesting to see. And all right, so you got I don't know what to call what you got, the undecided. You're undecided. You're in the undecided case.
I'm trying to predict the two ways that the game can go and who will win if it goes this way and who I think will win if it goes that way.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what undecided means. You don't quite know what exactly we want to do, but that's okay. I mean, like I said, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. Let's take a quick look at our social media. And there's only a couple things that I wanted to kind of share. So it was the first for us to hear that the referee could award a touchdown.
Crazy. I saw a video of the Eagles sideline, and even the players were like, did he say award? They're like, yeah.
So, we have here information from SI, sportsillustrated.com, and I also followed up, and there was a link that I looked it up, and yeah, it's right there in the rule book, written out clear as that, can award a touchdown for ongoing penalties or something like that. They had a name from the defense. So they were about to do that, and that would have been history for us. So I put that on here. And then lastly, as we close out, we know that you got to be real careful when you sack Tom Brady.
To be laid down safely.
Right.
So you come grab my top half.
So we have to sit here.
Yeah, right here. Now you can come in and get my bottom half.
Okay.
Pick me up. Go ahead. Feel free. Now that's too hard. Don't put me down there. Y'all got something to lay me on? No.
This should be a penalty.
Get something down. Get something down.
Okay.
Lay me down.
Okay.
Don't you do me without that. Now make sure I'm safe. Now put that on because I get cold. I get cold.
Okay.
Lay me down.
Yeah.
I get cold.
You good?
Okay. No, I'm not good.
You're not good? How about that?
No, one of y'all give me a story.
There we go.
Say something nice.
It was the night before Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, stop.
Yeah.
Should I burp you too? Was stirring.
Pat my
Should I burp you?
Even the night before.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the way we're going to do it from
This
now
is a
on.
safe sack.
That's a safe sack.
Look at me. This is a safe sack.
Listen, they're not lying.
This is
Okay. And I'm gonna tell you this right now. They're going to be looking at Jalen Carter.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah.
Because he's been known to brutalize some quarterbacks. And he's really big and he's really strong. And a push from him can do, I don't want to say can do damage, but it can look a lot worse than the push maybe from somebody else. So he's going to have to.
Somebody hit him and he turned around and hit him back during the game.
And knocked the guy out. He gave him the Deacon Jones joint. So whack up. What did the 5 fingers say to the helmet? Select.
Oh my goodness. So, all right. Looking forward to this, but we got one more show next week before the actual Super Bowl. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but I'm sure something will come up. We have all the coaching carousel that we can talk about next week. We'll be able to find out if there are any injuries that are going to be reported that maybe we didn't know about. And lastly, Benny, the East-West Shrine Bowl. You're the college guy here. You got any thoughts on that?
I've been listening to some reports. Excuse me. It's kind of hard to watch them practicing because it's practice. They're going reps. Okay. I heard early on that Shiloh Sanders, who's a defensive back, I don't know if he's going to attempt to be a corner in the NFL or a safety. Most likely a corner. I don't think he's big enough to be a safety. Was getting burnt in 101s. Like
Really?
he was getting
Torched, eh?
myrtleized. So I don't know how that's going to translate to his draft stock. But what the heck? He's a Sanders, so
yeah, well,
I'm sure somebody will get him, but yeah, that's not looking good. But on the quarterback front, which is always first and foremost when you talk about the draft, Jalen Milroe, quarterback from Alabama, has been doing his draft stock nice. Like he's rising. Look really good. We'll have to see how he looks in the game, but supposedly in the workouts, he's doing really well. And somebody who a lot of people weren't thinking about, and what the heck is his name? He's from Mississippi, Ole Miss. I think his last name is Bates. He's kind of rising up also. So
what position?
Quarterback.
Quarterback again. Okay.
Right. So and the kid from Oregon, who I don't think is at this game, is going to be pretty highly touted also. So it's not just Shador and Cam Ward. There's some other quarterbacks that may be worthy of first-round picks. And, once the combine gets done and all the pro days and all that stuff, and I start to do my mock drafts, I'll be able to give you some updated information about how guys are progressing and how they look, because there's going to be several teams that are looking for quarterbacks, as they always are. And I think early in the season, I was hearing that this quarterback draft wasn't going to be very strong, but a lot of guys are rising up and making that kind of not true, as opposed to next year's quarterback draft that I hadn't looked at all. So it's a good possibility that this one could end up being stronger than it was supposed to be, and next year could be really good. But I don't want to get too far ahead. You know what I'm saying? It's hard enough picking these guys in the year that they come out. So we'll see.
Well, Ben, I'll leave you with this. And again, it was one of those little stats that they threw out about the Super Bowl. No team that has lost to Kirk Cousins in the regular season has won the Super Bowl in the same season.
Where did you hear that?
Breakfast ball. I said, I gotta pick on Benny.
That's well, neither one of these teams lost to the Falcons, so
there you go. So they both have a good shot at it.
So that erases that.
There were a few of those type of things that they were throwing out. Some favored the Eagles, some favored the Chiefs. So
that one didn't favor either one. It just proves that he likes trashing certain players like you do.
I love Kirk Cousins. You know that.
Yeah.
All right, Benny, that's all I got.
That's all I got.
Peace.
Later.